Hello everyone, another video here on the channel. Today's topic is, why won't single women have a happy ending? Right off the bat, I want to say that there will be exceptions to everything I'm going to say in today's video, okay? It's just that since Brazilians love to take exceptions as the rule and say things like, it's not really like that, you're generalizing, you're being too radical, and so on, right? So I'm already making it clear here that yes, there will be exceptions, which I estimate to be between 1 and 10%. It really depends a lot on the region of Brazil where the specific women I'm going to talk about are from, but being very optimistic, 10%. On average, though, I estimate that at most 5% will be exceptions to what I'm going to say here. This isn't a video to jinx anyone's life, to wish bad vibes or anything like that. This is a statistical analysis, a cross referencing of Brazilian income data, the current situation, and how women are behaving in response to stimuli and rewards in their environment, especially in the online environment. Because women are very superstitious. A lot of women believe in this thing about sending energy out into the universe, gratitude, good vibes, and all that more mystical, shamanic stuff too, like attracting things, the law of attraction, the law of return, and so on. I'm not saying that this doesn't exist or that I don't believe in it. Honestly, my opinion about that doesn't really matter here because the prediction I'm going to make in this video, that kind of thing isn't going to stop this pretty grim prediction I'm about to make, which actually has a more logical and rational basis behind it. Even though I don't think logic and rationality should guide everything, in many cases, instinct and emotion actually help, contrary to what people think, but in this case, it's impossible not to think in a logical and rational way. So, women usually react a lot based on the sounds they hear. Whether those sounds create a good or bad feeling in them. So, for example, when a woman reads that single women won't have a happy ending, she automatically thinks, wow, don't say that. She's not analyzing the whole picture, not looking at the context, not considering the reason why. Obviously, many women are curious or are intellectually honest and will want to understand the reason why. But as a rule, yes, you see a lot of collective hysteria. It's like those headline readers. Just reading a headline already creates a red meat's bad for your health. Then you go look and it's some crappy observational study that doesn't prove any cause and effect at all. So people have been acting and reacting in a very hysterical way for quite some time now. And I don't think it'll be any different if some women just see the title of this video, which, yes, is clickbait, okay? Before actually listening to what I have to say here, right? If you pay attention, so let's get straight to the point now. If you look at how single women behave on social media, especially on Instagram, I always emphasize Instagram here because it's the social network that changed the whole dynamic, right? I have said it in other videos, it wasn't Orchid, it wasn't Photolog, it wasn't WhatsApp. TikTok is still too new to say anything, and it mostly affects much younger girls. So let's focus on women who are already around 25, 27, from about 22 to 30 years old. All of them believe in a happy ending in life, right? The most common phrases lately are things like, in the end, everything will work out. If it hasn't worked out yet, it's because it's not the end. Something like that, right? Those cliche phrases that everyone already knows, it even gets repetitive to say them so many times here. But if you look at the current situation for men, right? Both in terms of men's income compared to the general population and men's expectations about wanting a relationship or not, you can see that the ending, that is, what's the rule for single women who really believe in a happy ending, a beach wedding, a dream honeymoon, a wonderful house with a dog, a nice car, trips, a perfect life, is that it's just an illusion. You'd be better off believing in Santa Claus and believing that's going to happen, right? In a country where 80% of the population earns up to 2,300 reais, you know? And that's the general population, both men and women, right? Earn up to 2,300 Brazilian reals a month. In this case, this data doesn't distinguish between genders. How's this math supposed to work out, my friends? I want you to explain that to me. How does it add up when so many single women, whether they're earning one or two minimum wages, or even those who make good money, okay? When we talk here about this issue that women are going to end up single and that the holocaust of the single women is no longer just an opinion, it's not just a prediction or a matter of acceptance or not. A lot of women sometimes say nobody is saying that a woman necessarily depends on a man to support herself. The point is that even if she makes 100,000 reais a month, whether she's a very successful doctor or a digital marketing success story or any other highly paid profession, she still won't lower her hypergamous desires. A woman who makes 100,000 reais a month isn't going to marry a guy who makes 10, you get it? But a guy who makes 100 would be fine marrying a woman who makes 10. Or in many cases, even boomers from the past who got rich, a lot of guys who made that kind of money. Generation X, too, who were easy targets for women looking to climb the social ladder. They even married unemployed women who had never worked a day in their lives, you know? At a time when it was no longer normal for a woman to just be a housewife. So, men don't care if a woman is unemployed, if she has a PhD, or how much she makes. Men are much more focused on physical beauty and at least a minimum level of decency from the woman. So guys realize that decency went out the window a long time ago. Some still try to dream about a return to a conservative society. I've already said that's a huge illusion. I totally agree with Hakun that these people have been blue pilled, purple pilled, and all that. The blue pills being a total sheet. The purple pill guy, he understands the game, but he still believes in the exceptional woman, okay? I do believe in exceptional women, yes, and most of the people who work with these videos, like Hakun, Diozan MGTOW, Attitude Alpha, even Brunel, also say that unicorns exist out there. But it's that kind of thing. Are you going to spend your life chasing after that parachute that has a 98 or 99% chance of failing? Or are you going to focus on strong personal development, right? Chasing after money, having a nice body, reading a ton of books, evolving spiritually, so to speak. So, guys are kind of into having hobbies with their friends anyway, since casual sex exists, right? Even though it's only for a minority of men. And for those who aren't in that minority, the guy has the option of paid sex, right? And a lot of young guys are getting into this whole gepecismo thing, right? With escorts. And I don't judge that at all. Guys don't even care about love anymore, you know? So you have an environment where most women are either unemployed or make between 1 and 5 minimum wages. And they're looking for guys, just so you know, to be in the top 1% in Brazil, you have to make at least 27,000 reais a month. In other words, if you make 27,000 reais a month, which is about $5,000 today, you're already in the top 1%. And a lot of women who make 2, 3, 5,000 reais, they're looking for the top 0.5%. Guys who make 50, 100,000 reais a month. So when I say that the future of single women won't be happy, I haven't even brought up yet the fact that many of these single women have, at some point in their lives, gotten involved with some super alpha guy. They became alpha widows. They had casual sex with some really outstanding guy, someone very rich with a very high social status. And that leaves a mark on them in a way that they never recover from. So they're always going to want, since they're summarily discarded by these guys, they'll always be looking for a new thrill. They'll always want someone better. And, Brazil is a poor country. I think we should write that down, just like Bart Simpson does. When you were punished, you had to write the sentence over and over again, like, for all single women, this is a poor country, Brazil is a poor country, just endlessly to see if they get it, because they really think they deserve everything and all that. And the more time goes by, the more they get left behind, the more you see bloggers, those female humor pages, which is something else. I'm going to make a video just about female humor, so you can see the desperation of the human soul there. You get that Gnosticism, that deepest kind of despair. Dust and the vilest things are materialized in those female humor pages. That's why I spent some time off Instagram, but I came back, and I'm not deleting Instagram anymore, because as toxic as it is, it's a hell of a social laboratory, right? And it gives me a lot of material for these videos here. So these women, besides wanting the men who are in that top 1%, right? Let's take the equation. Unemployed women with low income and with a lot of mileage. And by the way, very beautiful, it has to be said. Women are really beautiful and hot these days, thanks to the easy access and democratization of cosmetic procedures. So you have a lot of beautiful women in Brazil, but few of them, even though many of them support themselves, aren't able to have a high standard of living. They support themselves just like the average Brazilian, and there's nothing wrong with that because Brazil is a very tough country to make money in. That's not. It's not the women's fault, it's not the Brazilians' fault in general that they earn little, that they only make enough for an average life, because Brazil is a hard country to make money in. Here, the oligopolies and income concentration are absurd, and on top of that, there's almost no economic freedom for anything. So let's put all of that together. Very beautiful women who aren't making as much as they'd like, who have already had some experience in life with a super alpha, some super rich guy making 100, 200,000 reales a month, even if it was just a casual hookup. A lot of men waking up, average guys, above average guys, and super alphas. Very few of them want to date. It's what I always say here. Most men, whether they're rich, upper middle class, or middle class, all of them still move mountains for sex. To have sex, men still put up with a lot of crap. They go through some humiliations, chase after women, waste time, spend money, but after the guy ejaculates, he just wants to disappear. Very few guys say, "Oh, I need to be in a relationship." Of course, as I said, there are always exceptions to everything I'm saying here, but exceptions don't make the rule. The rule is that men are still very much slaves to their libido. But when you think about dating, when the guy thinks about taking cute pictures, meeting your friend, meeting the mother-in-law, the guy, he wants to play video games, he wants to hang out with his friends, he wants to do anything but be in a relationship, right? So putting all of that together, right? And on top of that, considering that 80% of the Brazilian population earns up to 2,300 reales a month, and everyone's struggling financially, and women aren't going to lower their standards, how is this equation supposed to work out? Yeah, I'll leave that question out there for you to answer in the comments. How's there going to be a happy ending for so many single women in Brazil, right? That's the $1 million question, isn't it? Are women going to lower their standards? Will a woman who makes 3 or 4 thousand reais accept a guy who makes 5 or 6 so they can build a life together? Just like many of the. As much as I criticize the boomer generation for leaving us with a completely messed up Brazil, and other countries too, for our generation, which is Generation Y, right? The boomers, they had that. Even Generation X, even though there were a lot of divorces, right? You still had couples growing together, you know? So, a woman who's unemployed, is she really gonna settle for a guy who works 8 or 9 hours a day, makes 3 or 4 thousand reais, when she's already hooked up with some famous doctor or some rich heir? Is she really gonna accept that? So, these pretty single girls who are out partying on yachts and gated communities, are they really gonna settle for a normal life, living in a 60 or 70 square meter apartment, going out to dinner just once a week, living that average life? Are they really going to accept that? Women might say, "No, I don't want that. I'm going to chase after what I want," and so on. Alright, good luck, both to the women and the men. In this madhouse called Brazil, where social mobility is almost impossible. So, there's just no way. The math just doesn't add up, you know? It's not about being negative or being bitter about life or anything like that. Because when women are faced with a harsh truth, they love to say that either you got dumped and are bitter about it. They go for the kind of arguments menus, right? They attack the person, not the idea, you know? So, why are there so many single women in society? So many, really, right? It's all these reasons, right? They want guys who are way up in the stratosphere, and the guys who would actually be compatible, like I already said, some level of. For example, if a woman is a 6, she wants a guy who's a 7. There's nothing wrong with that. That's just biology. There's nothing wrong with it. But now, if she's a 6 and wants a guy who's a 10, she wants to be a minor celebrity, a super rich heir, a Globo TV actor, a soccer player, some mega businessman. Obviously, there's a massive distortion of reality, and the math is never going to add up. So there's never going to be an ending. So let's be real here. Let's lay out the raw, unfiltered truth. No beating around the bush. If you're a single woman today and you're between 22 and 32 years old, put yourself in this situation. You're from 1989 to 1999. Let's use that as our range. You have more than a 95% chance of not getting that happy ending you want, okay? Then you might say, "But I don't need a man to be happy. Fine, but one thing is what you say, another thing is what you actually feel, right? Because it's funny how women alternate their posts between self love, be happy, be independent, be yourself, your sugar daddy with a yacht, right? But just wait until depression hits when things aren't going well, and then it starts, right? Stay with someone who values you. Those ready made little phrases, you know? In the end, what's meant for you, God is saving it. I don't know what. Some are even turning evangelical, right? So now, from being a feminist, they're coming over to the conservative side and so on, right? So pay close attention to the woman who says she doesn't need any man, that she's happy alone, and her actions. Because saying one thing is easy, but her attitude, the way she is, if she's taking antidepressants or anti anxiety meds, she's not going to tell you. So there's a big disconnect from reality, a huge cognitive parallax between what women say and how they're really feeling. So that's it. To wrap up, single women have over a 95% chance of not having a happy ending in their love life. When they decide to accept men at their own level, by the time they want to settle for these guys at 35, when that Balsaka desperation hits, the chances are huge that the guy has already made something of himself and now wants someone much younger, right? Or maybe he does not want anyone at all because he has woken up. Today, this guy might be a fool chasing after her, but he's got plenty of time. Men are waking up at lightning speed, okay? I'm honestly pretty surprised by that, and so are a lot of other YouTubers out there. I do not even consider myself a YouTuber yet, okay? I just started the channel, I'm still a nobody. But a lot of guys who have been at this for longer are also positively surprised by the number of men who are waking up, right? And women refuse to lower their standards, you know? And besides carrying all that baggage from partying, from riding the carousel, from one or another casual hookup with a super alpha guy, right? Anyway, the math just doesn't add up, okay? So, if you really believe in a happy ending for your life that you're gonna have, the dream wedding with that friend of yours who started dating way back and didn't get caught up in that Instagram trend, right? Or even a friend of yours who really got around and all that and is the exception, right? Like I said, there are about 1% to 5% of women who will really live it up and still end up rewarded with a rich husband, some clueless guy, right? It happens, okay? It happens. There are exceptions to everything. But you should know that today you are both men who are looking for an exceptional woman and women who are dreaming of a happy ending. You're basically working with a parachute that has a 95% chance of failing when you jump, alright? Take care and see you next time.